If you're looking for a quick gift that you can make to give somebody to let them know you're thinking about them this holiday season, I've got you covered. This paper cup is so cute. You can fill it with anything you like. I have a pair of fuzzy socks in it. But the great thing about this is you don't need any fancy tools. You just need a paper trimmer and a scoreboard. I'm going to be using this Jingle All the Way paper collection by Echo Park. You only need one sheet of 12 by 12 for this project, so I already picked one out here, and you can see it's a pretty busy pattern, but because there's a lot of surface that you'll be able to see on the cup, I thought this pattern would work really well. I'm going to start by placing my pattern paper into my paper trimmer, and I have the pattern with the top at the left. So I'm going to measure down to 6 3/4. Now if you have a pattern paper that doesn't have a direction to it, you don't have to worry so much. Once I have that cut, then I'm going to move this to 9 1/2. And then from this piece that's left over, I'm going to cut this down to 6 by 2 1/4. So these are the two base pieces that we'll need for our teacup, and you can see we have one little piece left, and then there's a pretty large piece left as scrap that can be used for a lot of other projects. And it doesn't matter if you are using double-sided paper or just single-sided paper, this project will work with both. Starting with my piece that is 6 inches by 2 1/4, I'm just going to make 2 score marks, one at 1/2 inch and the other one at 1 3/4. Now moving on to the larger piece that we cut, this is the 9 1/2 by 6 3/4. I'm going to score on the 9 1/2 inch side first, and I do have my pattern with the top at the top of my scoreboard. So I'm going to start with 1 1/2 inches, then 3 inches, 4 1/2 inches, 6 inches, 7 1/2, and 9. Now this is important, this next step. So I have my pattern facing with the top of my pattern at the top. For the next set of score marks, I want to turn it once to the right so that the top of my pattern is now on my right hand side. And there's only 2 score marks that I have to do here. So with the pattern facing the top on the right hand side, I'm going to score at 1 1/2 and 5 1/4. And I'll have all of these listed in the description box below. Now with this small piece that I cut for the handle, we don't have to make any cuts on that, so I'm just going to lay that to the side. But with our bigger piece, there are a few little cuts that we have to make. So I'm going to start by just giving all of my score lines just a quick fold to start, just so that it's a little bit easier for me to see where all of my score lines are. And when you're folding your score lines, you're folding everything towards the center. So those were my 2 top flaps. And as I work along these score lines that we did across the page, I'm just folding everything towards the center of the paper. I'm not worried about creasing anything down right now. Now if you flip this back around, so you can see here's the top of my pattern. This top flap is just going to get glued down in place, so we don't have to do anything there. But along the bottom here where we have those score marks, let's see, which side can you see better? Maybe this side. Everywhere that there's a line that comes up to this 1 1/2 line here, I'm going to cut straight up in. So you can see here, I'm just taking my scissors and I'm going right up along the score line. I'm cutting right in the middle of the score line. I'm not trying to eliminate the score line at all. I'm just trying to create tabs all along the bottom of the cup so that it can get closed up. So all of these that are along the bottom, these 1 1/2 tabs, I cut straight up until I met this score line here. Now when I get over to this tab, this little 1/2 inch section, I'm going to do it a little different. I'm still going to cut up right through the center of this tab, but then I'm going to come over here and cut at an angle. So now we have this angle section right here. And then I'm going to repeat that in this little corner too. So I'm going to cut my angle, and then I'm going to just cut that score line right down the center. So I did draw out a template for you here so that you can take a screenshot of this. I'll get my hands out of the way. There. Now you can take a screenshot of that so you can see that you'll need to cut away this rectangle and create a little angle, cut out this rectangle and cut out a little angle, and here at the bottom you'll just want to cut right up each of these score marks. Alright, I'm going to start gluing everything down. I'm going to start at the top. So here's the top. This is where we didn't cut any of these tabs. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put glue all along this top, but right here at the end where we cut this rectangle out, I only want the glue to come about halfway down this section. I'll show you. So I'm going to start my glue out right there. You can see the line there. So I left this side of it open, and then I'm going to run glue along the top of the rest of the section. Here, so you can see I have glue running all through this top section. I just left this little part open, so that will stay open. And now I can fold this over, and I'm going to give my glue a second to dry here because I want this stuck down really well before I start creasing anything. Because remember, I just folded on my score lines and pressed them in. I didn't use my bone folder yet. So now we're going to get in and really work these creases down a little bit more. Okay, so you can see where I didn't put glue, that's open there. That's what we need for later on when we glue everything together. So now that my paper is folded down, now I'm going to go through and re-crease these lines, and this is where I'm going to use my bone folder, just because now at the top here we have 2 layers of paper. So I want to make sure that this is creased down really, really well here. But I do like having this paper folded over up at the top because it really adds a lot of stability to this cup. And it just kind of makes it look pretty that it has a nice finished look on the inside of the cup. Okay, so we have that all creased down. You can see our cups kind of coming together. Now what I want to do is on this flap that we left on this side, this little 1/2 inch flap, I'm going to run some glue on the front side. So you can see this is going to be the outside of my cup. So I want to make sure that my glue runs right here where the front of the cup would be. So I'm going to put glue all over this little tab. I like to use wet glue. If you want to use sticky tape, you could do that too. And now I'm just going to make sure that this little section is opened up, that we left open over here. So I just realized that I left the wrong side open. When I was putting my glue down, I left this side open that's by the flap, and that's not the side that I need open. I need this side open. It's okay. I'm going to still work with this. I'm going to make it work. I'm just going to use my pokey tool, and I'm going to lift this paper apart. It shouldn't damage the front. No, it's okay. So now this is open. So when you're adding your glue, make sure you glue the whole way down and you leave the opposite side of the flap. Make sure you leave yourself a little opening here. I think my glue's still pretty wet, but I'm going to add a little bit extra here. Okay. So now I have the opening on the correct side, and I can just slide that flap into the top there and line the end of my paper up with the edge of that score mark there. And you can even get your bone folder in there and really burnish that down, make sure that that glue is nice and stuck. So here's our cup. It's a 6-sided cup, and all we have to do now is close up the bottom. So I'm going to start just by placing one of the tabs in. I'm going to add a little bit of glue to the end of it, add another tab, add glue. I'm just going to work the whole way around the cup here until I have all of the tabs folded down. And as I'm doing this, I'm not pressing the tabs into place just yet because I want to stand this up on my mat and make sure that it's kind of squared up and I'm going to use my silicone mat here in case I get any glue on it. So now that I have glue all over my tabs, I'm just going to set this up on my mat, and I'm going to make sure it has a good shape to it, and then I'm going to take my bone folder and just press down on the inside and make sure that all of those tabs have stuck to each other. I just need to give this glue a minute to dry. That looks good. And now our base of our cup is built, and you can see it has this little section that comes down on the inside, which just makes it look a little bit more finished, and it gives it more stability. Now for the smaller piece that we scored at 1/2 inch on each side, I'm just going to fold those tabs up, and for this part I'm just going to use a little bit of sticky tape. I like to use the score tape. That's my favorite kind of double-sided adhesive, but anything you have on hand will work. I'm just going to run pieces along each of these 1/2 inch flaps. The size of score tape that I buy is 3/8 of an inch, because I find that most of the time when I'm creating projects, I end up using a 1/2 inch flap for different things, and the 3/8 inch tape fits really well inside of those flaps. Sometimes if you try to use the 1/2 inch tape, you have to be really careful that it doesn't overlap anywhere. So once I have my backers peeled off, then I can just seal this down. I'm going to give it a little burnish just to make sure that that tape is really stuck down. And this is going to be the handle for our cup, and you can see with my pattern it's running in the right direction. I just want to make sure that the top of my handle has a little curve to it, so I'm going to use my bone folder and just start curving the top half of this strip of paper. You just have to be careful and work with it. Don't try to get it to curl too much. You just want a little curl in the handle so that it's easier to stick on your cup. That looks pretty good. Okay, now I'm going to use my sticky tape again, and I'm going to put tape in 2 places. So this is the top of my handle. I'm going to take a piece of my sticky tape and run it on the top of my handle on the pattern side that's facing out. So you can see this is the top of my handle. There's my piece of sticky tape. Now down at the bottom, I want the sticky tape to be on the inside of the handle. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just running 1 piece of sticky tape along the bottom side of the handle, but I need it to be on the inside. So I'll show you again. So here's the outside of my handle. This is the pattern that's going to show. I have 1 piece of sticky tape at the top on the pattern side. And then on the other side, I have the sticky tape running along the bottom, and this is going to be the inside of the handle. So now we can connect it to our cup. And what I like to do is I like to look for that seam where I tucked the tab in, and that's where I like to put my handle. So with the outside of the pattern here, this is where the sticky tape is at the top. I'm going to remove that backer. And remember how we started to curl it here? So here's the seam of my cup where I tuck that flap in. I'm going to take the top of my handle and I'm going to place it at the top of the cup. So see how it's facing up now? It's not facing down towards the bottom of the cup. It's facing away from the cup. So that's where my handle's going to start. And I'm just going to pinch that really good, make sure that glue's really on there. And then down here at the bottom where I put the sticky tape on the inside, I'm going to remove that backer, and I'm not going to twist or turn the cup at all. My tape is right here on the inside, and I'm going to connect it down to the bottom. So I'm just going to line the bottom of my handle up with the bottom of this cup. And then I'm going to reach on the inside of the cup so that I can make sure that this is really pushed down. Now there's a ton of different teacups that you can find online. If you search paper teacups on YouTube, you'll get a bunch of different videos, and a lot of them do use the envelope punch board, but I wanted to create a teacup that didn't require that because not everybody has that in their craft stash. I wanted to be able to create one with just minimal supplies. So look how cute this is. This pattern is kind of big and bold, and it works out really well for this style of project because you can really see a lot of the pattern and you can really appreciate all the different design elements that are on this. Now that you have your cup base built, you can fill it with whatever you want. You could put treats in there, tea bags, whatever you want. I'm going to show you what I like to do. I grabbed a pair of these fuzzy socks from the Dollar Tree. This is the Snuggadoo brand, and they're really cute socks. They're nice and fuzzy and furry, and they have a little bit of shimmer to them. I made these style of teacups before for a craft fair, and they did really, really well. So I'm going to start at the toe, and I'm just going to start rolling both of the socks up together fairly tight. I don't need to worry about how big the roll is going to be, because I can always adjust it once I get to the end here. So I'm just rolling from the toe of the sock to the end of the sock, and you can see here this should fit inside the cup just like that. So then I took a rubber band, and I'm just going to rubber band about, I don't know, maybe 1.25 inches from the bottom, just to hold that in place. Here you can see where the crease is there that I put that rubber band in. And then I can just tuck this into my teacup, and I can pull from the center a little bit if I want to swirl this out to have it poke up through the top of the teacup a little more. I'll just pull this apart, and then I can slide this back in the teacup, and then it looks like the socks are swirling out through the top of the teacup. Now you could stop here. I think this is cute just how it is. If you wanted to tie a ribbon on the teacup, you could do that. You could stick a little toothpick in the center, like one of those cupcake toppers. I think that would look really cute too. But I'm going to show you some other options you can do to dress this teacup up if you have a few punches in your stash. This is the piece of pattern paper that was left over from the 12 by 12 that we made the teacup out of. And I also have just a piece of scrap cardstock here. This is a craft color. It really doesn't matter what color. You're not going to be able to see it anyway, but this is a bit thicker. I'm also going to use a 3-inch scallop circle punch. And I'm going to start by punching out a scallop circle out of this craft cardstock. And then I'm going to go ahead and punch one out of this pattern paper as well. Now, since my paper is double-sided and the two patterns work really well together, I'm going to go ahead and use this pattern facing up since I have the other pattern as my teacup. So on the pattern side that I'm not going to use, I'm just going to place some of my wet glue all around this scallop circle, all over the surface. And then I'm going to line it up on this craft circle, and I'm just going to glue the two pieces together. I'm just doing this so it's a bit more sturdy. And then this is going to become a coaster for our cup. So I'm just going to place a little bit of the same wet glue that I've been using, the art glitter glue. And I'm going to use a pretty generous amount along the bottom of the cup. I know with wet adhesive, when you're paper crafting, they usually say less is more, but I think this is one of those times that more is more, right? So once I get a lot of glue on the bottom of that cup, then I'm just going to do my best to center this over my scallop circle. And I'm just going to hold those two pieces together until I feel like it has a good strong hold. Now also out of that scrap piece that I had left over, I cut a piece that is 1.5 inches by 3 inches to create a tag. And I do have this 3-size tag punch. This is by the Paper Studio. I got this at Hobby Lobby. But if you didn't have something like this, you could just use a pre-made Christmas tag. I think the Dollar Tree the past few years has really come out with some cute styles. I've seen a lot of bigger tags and like dimensional tags and things like that. So if you didn't want to go to the trouble of making your own tag, you could use something pre-made. I also have a piece of scrap cardstock here that is 1.25 inches by 1.75 inches. And because my paper is printed on both sides, I'm just going to add this to the side that's going to be towards the cup. I'm going to use this coordinating side to stick out. So I'm going to take my little piece of white cardstock and I'm just going to apply that to the back so that I have a place to stamp. I have this little to and from wooden stamp. I really don't even know where I got this from anymore, I don't really care for wooden stamps, but this is one of the only ones that I still have in my stash because I do use it pretty often. And I do like this VersaFine Onyx Black ink. That's one of my favorite ink pads to use. So you can see here, I just have a simple little tag that says to and from on the back. And then on the front, it's a little plain, but this paper pack that I have does come with a sticker sheet. So I'm gonna pull that out. And I'm gonna look here on the sticker sheet to find something to put on the front of my tag. It's not a very big tag, so I want to make sure that it's something that will fit on the front here. I think I'm going to group up some of these ornaments. So I'm going to pick this little ornament and this one that says Merry Christmas. And I'm just going to stack them on each other here on this tag. There we go. So now you can see my little tag has some stickers on it. And then to attach it to my cup, I'm just going to take a small length of red ribbon. This is a very thin style ribbon. I'm going to pull my socks out of the cup. I'm just going to run this ribbon right through my tag. I'm not going to do any kind of knot or anything at the top of the tag. And then wherever I want the tag to fall, I think I'm going to have... Here's my handle. I think I want the tag to fall on this section. So I'm just going to place it on there with a little bit of room. You can see it has a little bit of room here to wiggle. So I'm going to place it right there. I'm just going to hold that in place for a second. And then, whoops, I'll just take a piece of clear tape and I'll tuck my ribbon tails into my cup and tape them down with my clear tape. So you can see now my tag hangs out from the side of my cup and I can tuck my socks back down in. If you're finding that your socks are sinking in too far, you could just add a little bit of paper shred in the bottom so that they stick up higher out of your cup. But I don't mind that these are going to sink in some. Now remember, you don't have to put a pair of fuzzy socks in these cups. You could add a bag with some homemade treats. You could add a few tea bags. And there's even enough room. I think you could even fit a gift card down in there or maybe some lottery tickets. Anything you want to put inside of this cup would be really cute. But this is a quick and easy way to make some gifts for your family and friends. All right, everyone, thanks so much for coming to hang out with me again today. Let me know how all of your holiday planning is going. Do you feel stressed? Are you feeling excited? I'm pretty excited. I love Christmas. I love getting ready for it. So I'm always happy to do all of my Christmas festivities. It just always puts me in a good mood. All right, everyone, thanks for hanging out with me. Have a great week, and I'll talk to you in the next one.